Thank you, Marco, and thank you for the very warm introduction, one of the better ones I've received. And I do realize being here all day, definitely the minority being one of the handful of Americans, but been doing this for a while, and incredible to see this caliber people and companies that have come through NOAH throughout the afternoon. So before I get into what it is that we're actually doing, obviously want to follow on the theme of how big it can get. So I want to tee up some numbers that will kind of help position what it is that appssavvy is doing. So we don't need to spend an enormous amount of time on what these numbers say outside of the fact that more dollars are moving into digital, specifically display, video. It's growing year over year for obvious reason. It's where people are spending their time. We're seeing enormous movement into mobile as far as digital spend. But the challenge with, we know the dollars are there, and beyond search, which is about 42% on a global level, the innovation as far as how and when ads get delivered, we've seen moderately no change. Because generally, if I polled everyone in this room what they think about digital advertising, by show of hands, I'll get 2 or 3 people to raise their hand that speaks to, does the experience of a banner, both web or mobile, really excite you? So we haven't seen too much innovation to how and when ads get delivered. In the States, and certainly what I see coming into Europe, and specifically London, is this category of native advertising, which has really been around since the birth of the internet, but is back in really big strides. It's essentially what Facebook's business is about, native ads. It's what Twitter had a successful IPO last week. LinkedIn is reported to have $50 million of native advertising. So what is it? Essentially, it's leveraging the user experience to create new inventory. And generally, those ads are triggered at pockets of which are most conducive to the user experience. And we're here today because we're seeing a massive uptrend in programmatic, which is taking banners and making them more automated, which I do believe in. But we also see companies that believe deeply in their user base and don't want to just automate all their inventory. They want to make good sense of it. So this is looking at the natural behavior, but making new inventory, an ad that's triggered after you share an article on Huffington Post. We've talked a lot about social gaming. There's pockets in between gameplay or achievements that lend themselves to brand advertising. So BIA Kelsey is one of the first that reported what native advertising is going to look like comparatively to display. So this is a new category. Native in the States only started 12 months ago, but it's been an absolute rocket ship as far as conversation and publishers that are beginning to move in building native ad products. Specifically, companies like the New York Times, Forbes, Meredith, are all hiring people that are responsible for developing new ad products at their companies, so they're not stuck with the same banners up here and on the right side that we tend to ignore. And the numbers don't lie. This is eMarketer also highlighting what they believe is going to be one of the biggest sector changes as far as aggregate spend. So where we come in, we're based in New York City. We're a 6-year-old technology company. The pillars of the business have always been to put people first. No matter what, not the brand, not the agency, not the revenue, people. And we're finally beginning to see a shift in this attitude that people really do need to come into the equation as far as ad delivery. We focus on natural breaks, meaning mid and post moments, not the pre-roll. We enable publishers to tell us when these moments should occur. And when you do that, you get a user that's generally more receptive. So most people's attitude is that digital advertising doesn't work, it's ineffective. I couldn't disagree more. I actually think people do like advertising. Brand advertising does work. We just need to spend more time focusing on the when and the what rather than the who. Because too much emphasis over the last 20 years has been about the cookie. What about when's the best time to speak to me as a consumer? So this is what advertisements look like for the last 20 years. Ads adjacent, triggered by a page load. And the targeting criteria is the infamous cookie. But again, doesn't take in consideration what you're actually doing. From a mobile perspective, we've been quite lazy, to be honest. Mobile networks have essentially followed exactly what web networks have done and enter mobile. Yet this is the most precious screen on the planet. It's in each of your pockets right now, but no one in this room would really say that they have experienced mobile advertising at a level that they would probably expect. So from an appssavvy perspective, this is what we see as a company. we see native behaviors on the New York Times to social gaming companies. All of these natural behaviors lend themselves to ads that can trigger brand advertising, rather than put in ads adjacent to the content. And on larger properties, specifically Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter, this is what people actually do. So now, finally, our company. And some notable highlights versus the general ad tech conversation. We focus on people's activities to trigger ads, not impressions. We believe that mobile, while today it's about 50% of where people are consuming, will be 70 or 80 or 90%, there are no impressions in mobile. So you need to find new categories to trigger advertising. Rather than get into a debate of cookies and retargeting, we look at native activities as a mechanism of intent. Google built their ad business around intent and search. A share could maybe be more relevant for a male versus a female. Brands can understand what activities may help them with their fan acquisition campaign or their video completion campaign. But ultimately, this is a publisher platform, so we want to give them the tools to better manage their inventory. Ad tech has been about force-feeding revenue down a publisher's throat for 20 years, and it's pretty much got us to rock bottom. What we believe is give the publisher data and insights to better manage and control their inventory so they can understand how to speak to their consumer. So from a publisher perspective, we create new inventory, we help them manage it, and in some cases we can monetize it. But there's probably going to be other companies that can drive them more revenue. We just help them create more yield. From an advertiser perspective, we give them insights to what people are doing so they can potentially optimize their brand creative in real time. So this is one sort of category where we sit at the bottom right. So it's an exciting spot for us to sit in great company as relates to businesses that are going after the native social ecosystem. But let me show you how it looks. This is the Chicago Tribune. The activity is play again. And afterwards, you see a frame get triggered. So ignore the American Idol Fox ad for a moment. The first thing that gets triggered is the frame that identifies what you just did. Thanks for playing. It's simple context, but in the eyes for the user, it really matters because you just acknowledge what they did. Based on how we classified play, that would have triggered the ad. So again, this wasn't a cookie-based targeted, it's based on how we classified the activity. And for mobile, we've probably all seen the first screen on the left and the third, which is the Samsung ad, but we wanted to introduce what we call context points in mobile, which is acknowledging what the user just did. So in this particular case, mobile ad company Scopely in LA. What are people doing? They're rolling the dice. How often do they do it? When's the best and what's the natural break for this user experience? They identify that, and then the ad gets triggered. So the value in really understanding this behavior or this insight is improving ad effectiveness. Specifically, if you look at the top right where it says how we indexed on a specific campaign, whether it was sharing or uploading photos, generally advertisers get reports that tell them that they got a click-through rate of X, and every other publisher is telling them they also performed well. But now advertisers can get insights to what's driving the performance so they can optimize creative, so they can potentially look at other publishers to help them identify that inventory. So in summary, the belief in the market, specifically to what Marco wanted me to speak to, is we believe that not only mobile, we're finally going to see brand advertising enter mobile, but we're going to see it based on a different set of tools and criteria that matter. And Twitter is the perfect example of a company that's gotten this right. $650 million in revenue this year, $1.5 billion next year on only 230 million people. How do they do it? Higher eCPMs, less ads, better controlled times, native ad products. So we believe this is the future, and thanks for listening.